Welcome back to my channel. We finally made it to the end of And Just Like That. Last night was the season finale titled Let There Be Light. What was it? Oh, Seeing the Light. That was the title of the episode. And I have to say, I've had a lot of criticism for this reboot, and I still have some. But I thought that last night's episode pulled some things together nicely, at least for Carrie. But I'm going to start by talking about Miranda because I think she has been the most polarizing character this whole season, and for good reasons. I'm very disappointed in her. I'll start by saying that. I'm pissed that she left Steve the way that she did. I'm pissed that she is acting like a schoolgirl running around after Shay. But last night, I had my full of her. A couple of reasons. Number one, you deciding to go to California with Shay has got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. And it's stupid, especially because this is not Miranda. Miranda is not a flighty person who just ups and uproots her life for somebody, for anybody, let alone for somebody she's known for what, less than a year. This whole premise of her doing things because she calls herself being in love is just, it's irritating the hell out of me because I don't believe she's in love. I believe she's in lust. I believe that she got turned out by Shay. Even Shay said to her, you love the way you are when you're with me. This is nonsense. And the thing that's really triggering about it is that Miranda will call this out on anybody else. Even in this episode, while she's out here acting a fool, ready to leave her husband and her son, even though he's going to be backpacking through Europe or whatever, leaving school, turning down an internship that you were so proud to get and you worked so hard to get. The whole conversation with her about Paris and not being able to make it, or having to do all kinds of stuff and flying from LA to Paris to be there for Carrie. I mean, she sounds stupid. And if anybody had this kind of conversation with Miranda, she would call them out on it, just like she always has. And this was the irony of it. It was just a reverse of the way she treated Carrie when Carrie decided to move to Paris with the Russian. It's exactly the same thing. Carrie made a decision. Now, Carrie had been dating the Russian much longer than Miranda has been dating Shay. It was a real relationship. It wasn't some infatuation thing that kind of just sprouted overnight. She didn't have any kids. She had a job that she could leave. Like, there was just so many reasons why. Now, it turned out to not be a great decision on Carrie's part, but her setup was different. And Miranda gave her so much shit for that. She, was talking bad about the Russian, and she was like, well, how are you going to give up your job? And, you can't write in Paris, and you are in New York, and what are you going to do? Go and eat croissant. She got in her. She got on Carrie so bad about that, and you turn around and you do the same exact thing. It's the hypocrisy for me. And the fact that Miranda wasn't able to see how it looked exactly the same. And even then, Carrie gave her a lot more grace than she was given by Miranda. She asked some valid questions like, okay, so what are you going to do all day while Shay is shooting a pilot? So what about your internship? All valid questions. And all Miranda could say is, I'm in love. I'm going to live my life. As if you haven't been living your life. Miranda acts like she was a young mother who got pregnant at 17, got married at 19, never got a chance to go to college or hang out or live her life or travel, and now she's trying to revive all of that. That's not your story. You had a full, and we watched it, you had a full life. You enjoyed your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. You went to good schools, you made a lot of money, you have some good friends, you've traveled, you've done a lot of things. And not to say you can't change course now at 55, but do stop acting as if the universe owes you this and you can turn everything upside down just to satisfy your urge at this current moment. It's selfish, it's irresponsible, and I believe it's going to backfire. And I'm just really over the way that they are depicting Miranda this season. This is just not the person that we knew and some of us loved during the Sex and the City series. Um, you know, even her saying to Carrie about when Carrie said that the lamp kept coming on and, you know, is big in heaven. I don't know. She made some reference to Big being in heaven, and Miranda had a visceral reaction to Carrie believing in heaven. She's like, you know, I thought we were on the same page about that. Well, what? We have to be on the same page about religion? Like, I have to believe what you believe? Like, why are you so upset about that? Especially given all the things, all the topsy-turvy way you're living your life right now, and you have the nerve to judge her about her religious or spiritual beliefs. And then when she said that she thought Big was speaking to her through the lamp, she was so snarky and sarcastic. Like, this woman lost her husband. If she wants to believe he's speaking to her through through a lamp, which he very well may be, let it be. You just sit in your silence and just, you can judge it all you want behind closed doors, but it just was very I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it. You know, Miranda, if I had met Miranda today on this series, I'd be like, I don't want no parts of her. There's nothing about her that's endearing or interesting or fun to watch. She's a train wreck. Another thing, I'm sorry, I'm on a Miranda rant, but I'm looking at my notes. I had to take notes because there were so many things that kind of gave me pause. When she goes to Shay tells her she wants her to meet her family or whatever, and she's all giddy and excited. Like, you killing me. When Steve wanted you to meet his mother, you rolled your eyes and you had this, and you guys were having a kid together. That's the first time he asked you to meet his mother, which makes sense because y'all having a child, and you just had this, you know, this attitude as if you didn't want to be bothered with her, as if she was beneath you. When you met her at the church when it was time for Brady's baptism, you know, she was just so standoffish, and she was making fun of her later and talking about she's like Steve with a wig. And even at the Baptist, she's been disrespectful. Now, I will give you this. At the very end of season 6, she became more endearing when they started taking care of Steve's mom, when Steve's mom was having dementia and she was bathing her. We definitely saw a different side of Miranda. But up until that point, she was just this cold woman who didn't seem to have any room or compassion for Steve's family, or specifically for Steve's mother. And for you to get so giddy over meeting Shay's family, it just was, oh God, I was so upset. And I'm also upset that Shay decided to move to California made this decision, didn't counter you into it at all, then tells you after the fact she wants you to come with her. And Miranda made a good point. You had the time to rehearse a song and do all this stuff and put on a performance, but you didn't have the time to tell me. And why does that not bother Miranda? Let anybody else had told Miranda that story, she would have been pissed. She gave Carrie shit for Alexander Petrovsky, for Big. I mean, and granted, Big did mistreat Carrie in a lot of ways, but at every turn, she was the one who was calling Carrie out for allowing Big to take advantage of her or to dip in and out of her life or whatever. And look what you're doing now. You are 55 years old and you're about to uproot your life to follow this chick who didn't even have the decency to ask to tell you about it. It's just so off-putting. And you're the same one who, when you went to California in, was it season 3, was judging everybody and turning your nose up at them as if, you know, you're this proud New Yorker and California sucks. And now look at you. I'm so over Miranda. I am really, I feel so bad for Steve. Now, Brady, you know, he's living his own life. He's not worried about it. He ain't thinking about her. And he's old enough that I guess, you know, his mother leaving for a little bit, for a couple of months at a time is not a big deal. But Steve, and I did a video on why I think that she never deserved him to begin with. And I'll put it up here in the cards. But Miranda's no, the more I think about it, she's an awful person. You know, she's got her moments where she's been very supportive and sweet and stuff like that, but those are moments, you know? It's not a consistent level. And say what you want about Charlotte. You know, she might be a little Pollyanna. You know, this season she's been seeming really silly and everything, but she's consistent, and I think she's a good person and she has a good heart. Miranda, not so much. I'm highly disappointed in her. Moving on. What else happened in this episode? Before I get to Carrie, yeah, Charlotte in the scene with the bar mitzvah, the they mitzvah, her finding the trans rabbi. all of this pandering for this for her child who is obviously going through something. And you know, it must be nice to have that kind of money to spend on the whims of a 13-year-old. And then for that child to have the audacity to sit back there talking about she's not coming out there. I mean, this was just a perfect example of how I believe parents are losing control over their children. I mean, I'm not for, you know, abusing children by any stretch of the imagination, but like, where is the hard line that you draw in which children have to abide by their parents' um, direction? You know, this thing with they can do whatever they want, however they want, and let them decide. It's like, I get it. There's a space for that, but at the same time, there's also a space for structure and direction. And because these are the same children, when they grow up, will be mad at you because you did not draw a hard line with them and you let them do whatever they want. So I really think that Harry, sorry, how could I forget that? How Harry and Charlotte need to reevaluate their parenting of Rock. I mean, you know, give a little bit, but I think this child is she's running the house, it sounds like. You know, you guys are making a lot of decisions to pacify her 13-year-old whims, and I don't know how I feel about that. But I do like the fact that Anthony comes in and he you know, he not disciplines her, but he talks to her and lets her know, like, you know, listen, you're going to study for this. You got to do what you got to do. He turns off the TV. Like, he's not pandering to her the way her parents are. And you see, she listens to him. And I think children need that. There needs to be some kind of balance. So I'm glad that Anthony is there to do it. So let's move on to Carrie and her closure. So we see in the beginning, she's on a date with, can't remember his name, Paul. They kiss. There's nothing there. Then she has a situation with the lamp where it keeps flickering, and then she takes it to get fixed, and then it's still flickering, and she believes that this is Big talking to her from the other side. And she has a conversation. She has lunch with his brother, and the brother asks, you know, what are we going to do with his ashes? And she's still not there yet. So, you know, that was the impetus for her to really start thinking, like, it's been almost a year. Like, what are we doing here? And she has a dream in which Big tells her to go to Paris and to scatter his ashes over the bridge, which was very poetic. It was beautiful. I'm glad she went by herself because she did originally ask the girls, and that's when that whole conversation with Miranda came up. But I do think this is good that she had this opportunity to kind of spend this time with her own thoughts and have that moment alone with Big. So I thought that was beautiful. The text with Samantha. Now, this is another area where this is why this show, it takes me here and then drops me back down and then brings me back up. And this was we went from a high to a low for me because I don't see what they're doing here with Samantha. I said it before, they need to explain more so why Samantha is not talking to her. They gave that excuse in the beginning that Carrie fired her as her publicist or whatever, and Samantha was pissed, and then Samantha moved to London or whatever. That just doesn't seem like Samantha. That Samantha's not that sensitive, so to speak, for lack of a better word. I believe that either they are just throwing this at us as an excuse, or there's more to the story and they're leaving it open for us to find out later, because I have to believe it's worse than that for Samantha to abandon Carrie, and particularly when Big died. I mean, that was the moment that would have brought Samantha back on the red eye to come and support her friend. And the fact that she didn't, yes, she sent flowers, but the fact that she didn't show up, it's very telling that there's much more to the story. So that's, to me, is a little bit of a plot hole. And even the communication through the text messages. If she's so pissed at her, it seems like she just would not respond to her text messages at all. And this thing where she gives her a little bit, you know, she answers a question here and there, it just doesn't seem realistic. And when Miranda's on my brain. And when Carrie told her, you know, she had a date, and she's like, you know, she was telling her about the date, and, you know, Samantha had something cute to say. She's like, oh, well, it's not big. And she's like, well, was it small? That was really cute and funny. But when Carrie asked her, you know, do you want to talk? And she said, soon. Like, what is that? What is this soon? Like, why would she engage in that little back and forth, but then not want to talk to her? So when Carrie was in Paris, she texts Samantha and tells her she's there and asks her if she wants to have a drink. And Samantha says yes. So that was very nice that they had their moment, obviously off screen because Kim Cattrall is no longer on the show. But I don't know if this is now the producers and folks behind the scenes said Kim Cattrall is not coming back to the show. So the idea of Samantha being on screen again is definitely not going to happen. So maybe they'll just keep her on text because they can't use her voice, I imagine. And that's how we'll know how she's doing and that she and Carrie have reunited on some level. But I just think that if you're not going to show her, then she should probably just be out of the picture. This little texting here and there, it just doesn't do service to the nature of their relationship and to the role that Samantha, aka Kim Cattrall, played, contributed to this franchise. So we see at the end that now that Shay is leaving, thank God, because I'm so over her. I don't think she's funny. I don't think she's entertaining. I hope that they're writing her out. They're probably not, but I'm just so happy that we don't have to look at her. Well, season's over, but I'm just glad that she's on the West Coast for a little bit. So now Carrie is going to get her podcast or get her own podcast, which is great. This fits. It makes so much more sense because she's an author and just who she is and her personality and stuff. It just makes perfect sense that she would have a podcast and do relationship advice. So we see that the producer who, gave Carrie this opportunity is attracted to her and they share a kiss in the elevator. And I thought that was good. A, he's attractive. B, their relationship seemed to develop organically. And it obviously the kiss was different and it felt natural, and it came at a point in time when she has decided to move forward with her life after Big has gone. So I thought the timing was good. So I will say that, and this is why I liked this episode, because I thought for Carrie's storyline, it put a nice bow on it. We saw her come from a high of being with him in the beginning and his death and all the lows and all of the steps and all the the entire grieving process she went through to get to this point. And I think they did it justice in that it is a process and it does take time, and it would have been unrealistic to see Carrie running through the streets 3 episodes later like she did back in the 90s. She needed to go through this process. So kudos to them for that. Overall, what would I give this season or this reboot? I'll give it a C plus, and the plus probably comes from the fact that I already have an affinity for these characters. But if this was a new show that they dropped on HBO or Netflix today, would I have watched it all the way through? Probably not. I probably would have had to wait and see if there was a season 2 and wait for people to tell me about it, because I was forcing myself kind of week to week to watch, mainly because I'm a huge Sex and the City fan, and I also wanted to continue to do these reviews. So I'm glad that I pushed through. I heard that they are going to have a second season, and looking forward to see what that is. My hope is that Miranda finds herself, gets herself together, and comes back to be the Miranda we know. We see she dyed her hair back to red, which is a good look for her. And I do hope that they do more with Charlotte's storyline. This season, I feel like it was very slapstick comedy, kind of just silliness for me. I just didn't feel like there was much substance to it. So I would like to see them do more of that with Charlotte next season. And we'll watch Carrie, develop and continue to date and, move on with her life and see what else this looks like for these women as they run through New York City in their 50s. But that's all I have. So let me know what you thought. Let's talk about it in the comments. We've had some really good discussions about these characters and story, and it's been really good to talk to other people who enjoyed the original series as much as I did. So do not forget to like and share and subscribe. And I do review a couple other shows, so take a look at my channel and my playlist and see if there are some other shows that you watch that I talk about, and we can have some good conversations. Thanks for watching and have a good weekend. Bye.